Out here, that was a statement. I didn't even have to look. I knew it was Sabrina. Only one woman dumb enough to wear red-bottom stilettos across a dirt lot full of rusted car parts and oil stains. "Still playing with your little toys, huh?" she called out, fake sugar dripping off every word. I kept my eyes on the 91 Softail. That bike was supposed to be a gift to myself and Claire, our 20th anniversary ride. We'd picked the damn paint color together, but Claire bailed with her personal trainer last fall. His name? Holden. The same man Sabrina married 6 months ago. "Didn't think you'd be dumb enough to show up here," I said, still not turning around. She strutted closer, perfume hitting before I saw her. Too strong, too sweet, like everything else about her. "I just wanted to talk," she said. "Civilly, before the will reading. Holden was like a son to your dad. We both deserve our fair share." I finally stood up, wiping my hands on a rag. "This is my father's house. You don't belong here." She gave me that smug pageant smile, one she probably practiced in the mirror every morning. "His estate," she corrected. That's when she dropped it. "Darren's backing us up." My brother. The same brother who barely said a word at the funeral. The one who spent more time whispering with Holden than mourning our father. "We've done more than talk," she added. "He's been very helpful." I felt the wrench in my hand tighten like it had a pulse. For a second, I saw myself throwing it. But Dad's voice echoed in my head. "Always use the right tool for the job, son, even when the job is ugly." "Get off my land, Sabrina," I said, keeping my tone low and flat. She laughed like I'd told a joke. "Hope you're packed. Holden and I are moving in next week. We'll need at least a month to remodel this dump." She turned and stomped back toward her car, heels stabbing gravel with every step. I looked down at the Harley, grease all over my hands, heart pounding in my chest. Then I saw it. Sticking out of the saddlebag was an envelope. Yellowed, sealed, with my name written in bold black ink. It was Dad's handwriting. No doubt about it. I dropped the wrench and grabbed the envelope. My hands were shaking. Maybe he knew this was coming. Maybe he'd left me more than just a mess to clean up. Quick note. Before we start, how's your day going and where are you joining from? Share in the comments and let's continue. I walked straight into the house, envelope still clutched in my hand, and grabbed the phone. Called Andrea. She showed up 2 hours later, briefcase in one hand, 6-pack of Miller in the other. "You look like hell," she said, brushing past me into Dad's office. "Been a long day." She tossed her keys on the desk and cracked 2 beers. The place still smelled like motor oil and pipe tobacco, like nothing had changed since the last time Dad sat in that worn leather chair. "You open it yet?" she asked. I shook my head and slid the envelope across the desk. "Didn't want to do it without you." She nodded, serious now. "He told me there'd be a letter." I tore it open. One sheet of paper, small key taped to the bottom. Dad's handwriting, tight and direct. "If Sabrina or Holden is sniffing around, use this. Drawer 3, right side of my desk." I didn't say a word, just reached over and unlocked the drawer. Inside was a thick red folder and a flash drive in a plastic bag. I dropped both on the desk. Andrea opened the folder and her face changed instantly. "He actually did it," she muttered, flipping through the pages. Photos, wire transfers, notes on phone calls, copies of invoices. One page had a list of names, dates, and times next to them. She pulled out a photo and laid it flat. Sabrina handing a gift bag to one of Dad's nurses outside a gas station. Next was a zoomed-in shot of Holden stepping out of a law office downtown, one that worked with a rival firm. He had them followed, Andrea said, flipping to another page. He must have hired a PI. This is real surveillance-level stuff. My stomach was tight. "Why didn't he say anything to me?" "He wanted to be sure," she said. "He told me he had a feeling but didn't want to blow it too early." She plugged in the flash drive. We watched a short clip. Holden shaking hands with a man in a conference room. Another showed Sabrina arguing with someone on the phone, yelling something about controlling the paperwork before he gets clever. I rubbed my face with both hands. This is bigger than I thought. Andrea didn't answer. She was scanning a new page. Mel, look at this. She slid a document across the desk. It was a will. Updated 3 days before Dad died. Notarized. Witness signatures. Everything in order. I read through it fast, my chest tightening with every line. The original gave 40% to Holden. This one gave them nothing, unless they stayed away. What's the condition? I asked. Andrea tapped a line near the bottom. If either party attempts to contest or claim any portion of the estate, the attached evidence becomes part of public record and is released to authorities. I let out a long breath. He built a trap. She nodded. And you're the spring. I sat back in the chair, eyes locked on the folder. It was all right there. Proof, leverage, maybe even revenge. He wanted you to be the one to pull the trigger, she said. You're the executor now. If they make a move, it's your call. I nodded slowly. Let them come. Let them take a swing. Andrea leaned back in Dad's chair, beer in hand, the corners of her mouth twitching up just slightly. This is going to get messy. Good, I said. I'm done playing nice. Andrea had just left when I heard the knock, 2 slow thuds like someone wasn't sure they should be there at all. I opened the door, and there was Darren, looking like he hadn't slept in days. Tie half untied, shirt wrinkled, hair all over the place. You look like hell, I said, stepping aside. Thanks, he muttered. Been living it. He dropped onto the couch, like his legs gave out. I stayed standing, arms crossed. I know, he said, not looking at me. You probably want to hit me. Not yet. He rubbed his face, then reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded check. He held it out. $250,000, he said. Sabrina offered it to me if I'd testify Dad was mentally unfit when he changed the will. I didn't take it. I just stared at him. But I didn't cash it, he added quickly. I took it to Dad instead. That got my attention. You what? I showed him the check, told him what she was planning. That was about 2 weeks before he died. I sat down across from him, watching his face. I fed her just enough to keep her cocky, he said. Told her Dad was slipping, that you were still bitter about Claire. Meanwhile, I was helping Dad collect everything. He had me running errands to the PI's office, recording calls. He shook his head. I felt like I was in a damn spy movie. I didn't speak. I was still trying to figure out if this was some kind of pitch or confession. I know I screwed up, he said. And not just with this, with you, during your divorce. I took her side, Claire's. You didn't just take her side, I snapped. You let her and Holden parade around like nothing happened. You invited them to dinner, Darren. I know, he said, eyes finally locking with mine. I hated how uncomfortable it made you, but I thought if I kept the peace, everything would stay intact. I didn't want to pick a side. I thought staying neutral was safer. Yeah, well, neutral looks a lot like betrayal when your brother's getting gutted. He nodded. I deserved that. There was a long silence. He broke it by pulling out his phone. I've got something else, he said, scrolling. Dad told me to record everything I could. Phone calls, meetings, whatever. He hit play on a file labeled lakehouse3am.wave. Sabrina's voice, sharp and smug. Once the old man croaks, we get everything. Your brother won't know what hit him. Holden chimed in, laughing. We flip the house, liquidate the rest, and Mel can go back to his little garage. He'll be lucky if he keeps the bike. I felt something twist inside me. My jaw locked. She hated me that much? I said. Darren looked down. You made her feel small, he said. She wanted to break you. Every time you held your ground, every time you didn't need her, it ate at her. She was the one who cheated, I said. She blew up the marriage. Yeah, he said. But you didn't fall apart. That's what pissed her off. I leaned back, staring at the ceiling like I might find answers up there. Darren kept talking. I saw her for what she was after that call. And Holden? He's just a follower. She yanks the leash, he barks. I looked at him. Why come clean now? He shrugged. Because I was in too deep. Because Dad trusted me enough to put me in the loop. And because I saw what she was planning for you. She wanted to leave you with nothing. Wanted to wipe your name off this place like you never existed. I stood up, pacing the room. My fists were clenched without me realizing it. Dad must have known they'd try something like this. That's why he gave me the folder, the flash drive. He knew it had come down to a fight. He wanted you to be ready, Darren said, and he knew Sabrina wouldn't stop until she thought she won. I stopped pacing and looked at him. So what now? She's already filming a documentary, he said, about their unexpected inheritance. Wants to paint Holden like the grieving son-in-law and you as the bitter black sheep. Jesus Christ. I can help you stop it, he said, but we've got to be smart. If she gets any hint we're working together, she'll go nuclear. I walked back to the table and picked up the check he'd laid out earlier. You still holding this? I asked. He nodded. You planning to cash it? He met my eyes. Number, I'm planning to burn it. Then let's burn them both, I said. It's time they learned who they're messing with. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat at the kitchen table with Andrea, prepping like we were heading into court. She had folders spread out in neat stacks, highlighters, tabs, paper clips, full lawyer mode. This right here is the original will, she said, tapping the older document. This one is the revision. And this, she slid a stapled packet toward me, is the codicil, the trigger clause. I nodded, eyes skimming every page even though I already knew what was coming. If they touch the money, she said, the whole thing blows up in their faces. The trust activates, the file goes to the DA, the flash drive goes public. Your dad covered every angle. I slid a copy of the photos across the table, Sabrina slipping the nurse that gift bag, Holden stepping out of the competitor's law office. And this? I held up a thumb drive. Every damn recording Darren gave me. She gave me a tight smile. You sure you're ready for this? Let 'em come, I said. I hope they show up with champagne. They showed up with worse. A full damn documentary crew. Andrea and I pulled into the estate early the next morning. Dad's lawyer's office had converted one of the old barns into a meeting space, fancy enough for legal business, remote enough to keep nosy eyes out. Sabrina was already there, full makeup, hair curled, wearing a white blazer like she was being crowned queen. Holden looked stiff, over-gelled, avoiding eye contact. The camera guy filmed them stepping out of the Escalade. A girl with a clipboard was yelling something about natural light angles. I kept my mouth shut. Let them get comfortable. Inside, Isaiah, Dad's estate attorney, sat at the head of the table, stone-faced. I hadn't seen him since the funeral. His eyes flicked up at me once, gave a tiny nod, then got back to his notes. Andrea leaned over. Remember, let the show play out. We hit them after the applause. We took our seats. Sabrina smiled like we were old friends reuniting over brunch. You clean up nice, Mel. I ignored her. Isaiah cleared his throat and opened the folder in front of him. Let's begin. He read through the usual legal stuff. Then came the numbers. To his son, Melvin Harrison, 60% of the estate, including property, business assets, and liquid holdings. To Holden Pierce and Sabrina Pierce, 40%, divided equally. Sabrina actually clapped, full-on clapped. Holden always was like a son, she beamed. This just proves it. Andrea didn't even blink. She waited for the moment, then stood. There is, however, she said, voice calm but sharp, a codicil, recently added. Legal, signed, notarized. Sabrina's smile froze. A what? Andrea opened the final envelope. It states that any party accepting any portion of the estate hereby agrees to the full release of a package labeled Suspicious Activities, compiled by Mr. Harrison prior to his death. That includes recorded evidence, financial documentation, and video surveillance, to be submitted to the district attorney and local law enforcement. Dead silence. Holden shifted in his seat. Sabrina's eyes narrowed. "You're bluffing," she said. Andrea placed a copy of the photos face up on the table. Sabrina pushed her chair back. "Turn the cameras off." "They stay," I said. "You wanted this moment on film, remember? Your little victory lap?" The camera guy looked confused. The clipboard girl started whispering to someone outside. Isaiah didn't flinch. "The codicil is valid. If you accept any funds, the evidence is immediately distributed to the appropriate agencies. That includes federal authorities. Your signatures will trigger the release." Sabrina stood too fast and knocked her chair over. "You set us up," she snapped. "You set yourselves up," Andrea shot back. "We just turned the lights on." Then she pulled out a small remote and hit play on a flat screen mounted behind Isaiah's desk. Dad's face came on the screen. Recorded just days before he died. Same flannel shirt he always wore, seated in his office, arms crossed. "If you're watching this," he said, "then the wrong people touched what wasn't theirs." He stared right into the lens. "Greed is a hell of a teacher, but consequences are better students. You took more than money. You tried to gut my family, and now you'll get what you earned." Andrea paused the video. "That's your warning." Sabrina looked like she wanted to lunge across the table. "We're leaving," she hissed. "This is a scam." "Go ahead," Andrea said. "But if you sign anything, even a napkin, this entire case goes public." Holden stood slowly. "We need to talk," he muttered to Sabrina. I didn't move. Just watched them gather their crew and storm out. Andrea leaned in. Traps sprung. They didn't even make it 24 hours. Next morning, I was in the garage when I heard the first chopper overhead. By noon, news vans were lined up down the street. Reporters camped on Dad's front lawn like it was the damn Super Bowl. Every local channel ran it back to back, Sabrina and Holden in cuffs, shoved into separate cruisers. Andrea called me from her office, voice sharp and fast. "DA's all over it. That folder? It cracked the case wide open." She wasn't exaggerating. By that night, the story exploded. Turns out Sabrina had pulled similar scams before, just not this high profile. 3 other families, Andrea told me, flipping through her notes, all elderly, all owned mid-size companies. 2 settled in court. 1 never pressed charges. "And no one connected the dots?" I asked. "She changed names every time. Paper trail's a mess. But not anymore." Darren and I were sitting in Dad's den when she dropped the real bomb. "Her name's not Sabrina," Andrea said. "It's Margaret Pierce. She's wanted in Arizona and Nevada. Fraud, identity theft, elder exploitation." I stared at the phone, stunned. "She had a whole system," Andrea said. "Each time she cozied up to a son or heir, blew up their relationships, isolated the target. Then she moved in." I looked at Darren. His jaw clenched. "She started with Claire," I muttered. "She knew exactly how to break me down." A few hours later, we got confirmation. They found a journal in her apartment. Darren handed it to me, silent. I opened it on the kitchen table. Phase 1, isolate the son. Phase 2, dismantle the support system. Phase 3, gain control. Page after page, she wrote out her steps like it was a business strategy. Notes about Holden's emotional predictability. About my routines. About Andrea being loyal but legally dangerous. "She watched all of us," I said. Darren nodded. "Like a hunter." We sat in silence for a long time, flipping through her twisted playbook. I saw entries about Dad's nurse, about Darren, coded references like backup plan A and soft target. She'd almost pulled it off. Almost. I stood up and paced the room. Dad knew. He wasn't guessing. He knew. That's why he started recording, why he called Andrea, why he told me to keep her talking, Darren said. I stopped walking and pointed to the folder still open on the table. He left this for us to find when it mattered, not before. He knew she'd come for the money, Darren said, and when she did, the whole house would come down. Andrea showed up later that night with more. They also found a flash drive in Dad's safe deposit box, she said, setting it down. Surveillance footage. You're going to want to see this. We plugged it into the TV. The file was dated 6 weeks before Dad died. Footage showed his office. Same room we were in now, same wood paneling, same desk. Dad sat behind it, calm as ever, cigarette burning in the tray. Sabrina was across from him, standing, pacing. Her voice was raised, but we couldn't hear it. No audio. Dad never moved, just sat there watching her. Then he looked straight into the camera. "You lose," he mouthed. "You just don't know it yet." He turned back to her, said something, and pointed to the door. She left in a huff. Dad didn't flinch. He lit another smoke and stared at the lens for a long time. The screen went black. Andrea exhaled slowly. "He wanted you to see that." "He planned the whole damn thing," I said. "Every step." She nodded. "He knew how this would end. He just didn't know how long it'd take to get there." I turned to Darren. "You still think you were neutral?" He looked down. "Not anymore." We stayed up late going through the rest. More receipts, more notes, more evidence. She hadn't left anything to chance. Except one thing. Dad. She thought she could fool him like the others, but he saw it coming. And he built a wall around us before the first shot was even fired. The courtroom smelled like old carpet and stale coffee. I sat there waiting to be called, tie too tight, palms sweating, but steady where it counted. Andrea sat behind me, notepad in her lap, eyes sharp. Darren was beside her, fists clenched, trying to sit still. Then they called my name. I stood, walked to the stand, and looked the jury dead in the eyes. 12 strangers who had no idea how deep this went. I told them everything. "My wife left me for a man named Holden Pierce," I began, voice steady. "At the time, I thought it was just a personal failure, but it wasn't. It was the first step in a larger plan. A calculated move by the woman sitting right there, Sabrina Pierce, or Margaret Pierce, depending which ID you want to use." Sabrina didn't even flinch, just crossed her legs and tilted her head like she was bored. I went on. I told them about the threats, the bribes, the letter from Dad, the hidden folder, the recordings. "She tried to gut my life," I said, "tore apart my marriage, turned my own brother against me, and when that didn't work, she tried to steal the only thing my father left me, his legacy." Someone on the jury actually gasped. Then came the part she couldn't take. I held up the journal. "She wrote it all down," I said. Phase 1. Isolate the son. Phase 2. Dismantle the support system. Phase 3. Gain control. That cracked her. She shot up from her chair, eyes wild. "This is a goddamn circus!" The judge slammed the gavel. "Mrs. Pierce, sit down." "You're all fools," she screamed. "That old man manipulated everyone. He was a bitter, controlling bastard and—" "Mrs. Pierce!" She kept going, yelling over the judge, over her own attorney trying to pull her back down. "He was obsessed with that garage, obsessed with him," she pointed at me, like some greasy little hero. "Remove her from the court," the judge ordered. 2 bailiffs moved in fast. Cameras flashed. She kicked one of the chairs on the way out. It was all caught on video. Every news station played it that night. I sat there and breathed. Didn't smile, didn't gloat. Just let the moment settle. Then came Holden. His lawyer called him to the stand. He walked up looking like he'd aged 10 years in a week. No gel in his hair, no blazer. Just a guy who finally realized the devil doesn't hand out refunds. "Mr. Pierce," the attorney said, "can you explain your involvement in these events?" He took a long breath, then nodded. "She planned it all," he said, "from the beginning. Even the affair." The room went dead silent. I didn't know how deep it went at first. I thought it was just about the money. But she had files, maps, names. She tracked Mel, tracked his father. I went along with it because I was scared of losing her. "Did you benefit financially?" "Yes." "Did you believe Mr. Harrison's father was mentally unfit?" That was her idea. She told me to lie if it came up. Said she had someone who could fake paperwork if needed. Andrea leaned in and whispered, "That's it. That's the nail." The prosecutor asked a few more questions, but it was already over. Holden gave them everything. He stepped down, walked past me, eyes low. Didn't say a word. The judge didn't even take long. For the defendant, Margaret Pierce, known as Sabrina Pierce, this court sentences you to life in prison without the possibility of parole. She wasn't in the room to hear it. For the co-defendant, Holden Pierce, 15 years, with eligibility for parole after 10. I sat there frozen, heart thudding, like I was waiting for someone to say it was a mistake. But it was real. I stood and walked out of that courtroom with Andrea and Darren behind me. It was finally over. A week after the sentencing, Darren showed up at the shop with grease on his jeans and a manila envelope under his arm. He didn't say anything at first, just stood in the doorway watching me polish the soft ale like it was still the most important thing in the world. Then he held out a small brass key. "Check the greenhouse," he said. I wiped my hands on a rag. "I haven't stepped in there since the funeral." He nodded. "I know. That's why you need to." The walk across the yard felt heavier than it should have. The old greenhouse sat behind the workshop, surrounded by weeds and cracked stepping stones. I used to find Dad in there early mornings, fiddling with his bonsais, drinking black coffee, sometimes just staring out the window like he was listening to something nobody else could hear. I unlocked the door. Hinges groaned. It smelled like dust, cedar, and soil. Everything was right where he left it. Pots lined up on the bench, dried leaves curled in their trays, little rusted tools on hooks along the wall. But in the center, like he'd saved it just for me, sat a plain box. My name written in bold on the lid. Taped shut. I peeled it open slow. Inside was a folded letter and a thick envelope marked "Legal. Transfer." Beneath that, a deed. I held the paper in both hands, read every line twice. "Mel, if you're reading this, it means the house didn't fall on you. Good. You've always been stubborn, but you're the kind of stubborn that builds things. That's rare." I sat down on the old stool by the workbench, letting his words settle. "I bought the lot next to your shop 6 months ago. Paid in full. It's yours now. You've got the hands, the eye, and the fire to make this more than a hobby. It's time to stop fixing what's broken for other people and start building something of your own. Turn the side hustle into a business. Turn the garage into a future. Grow something real. Beauty can come from busted engines, too." Dad. My throat tightened. Not in the sentimental, slow tears kind of way. Just like I couldn't swallow right for a second. Like someone had punched a hole in my chest and filled it with pride I didn't know I'd been missing. I walked back outside, deed in one hand, letter in the other. Darren was leaning on the hood of his truck, arms crossed, watching the clouds. "He always wanted you to have it," he said when he saw my face. "You knew?" He shrugged. "He told me to stay out of the greenhouse until after everything was done. Figured I'd mess it up somehow." I held up the envelope. "You want in?" He smiled. "Only if I don't have to deal with customers." "You're sanding frames," he laughed. "Fair trade." We drove back to the house and found Andrea already in the driveway with a notepad and 2 lattes. "You've got zoning questions," she said, not even saying hello. "I've got answers." I waved the deed. "Dad bought the lot next to the shop. Wants me to go legit." "You mean he wanted you to finally listen," she corrected, grinning. We stood in the gravel yard like idiots, the 3 of us. A lawyer, a busted-up brother, and a mechanic with no business plan. "Could be something," I said. Andrea raised her coffee. "To something." Darren pulled out his keys. "Let's get to work." The morning we opened Harrison Custom Motors, the parking lot was full before we even flipped the damn sign. Folks from all over town showed up, riding in on old Harleys, classic pickups, even a couple muscle cars I recognized from car shows Dad used to drag me to. It felt like every mechanic, welder, biker, and busybody in 3 counties came to see if the rumors were true. And right there in front of the shop, gleaming under the sun like it had been dipped in gold, was Dad's Softdale. Same one I'd been rebuilding for years. The chrome was spotless. The tank was deep black, lined with silver flames, just how we planned it. Andrea stood at the door in sunglasses, holding a clipboard and bossing volunteers around like she'd been running bike shops her whole life. Darren was inside, already covered in dust, pretending he didn't love the attention. News vans showed up around 10, 2 local stations, maybe 3. Cameras aimed straight at the Softdale. A reporter shoved a mic in my face before I made it 5 steps. "Mr. Harrison, this shop, this case, this moment, it's a big turnaround. What do you want folks to take from all this?" I didn't blink. "That my father believed in second chances," I said. "And so do I." They kept digging for trial stuff, but I didn't bite. This day wasn't about her, or Holden, or even the courtroom. It was about the shop, about finally finishing something I started. Inside, the floors were still sticky in places, the walls bare in others, but every workbench was lined with tools. Darren had organized every socket set by size, color-coded the oil racks like it was a grocery aisle. Andrea had built a chalkboard wall for custom orders, but the thing that stopped me cold was hanging above my own bench, dead center. A plaque, wood-stained brass lettering, for Mel, who never stopped rebuilding. I didn't know Andrea had done that. Didn't say anything either. Just ran my hand over it once, and took a breath that felt like it hit places in my lungs I hadn't used in years. Darren popped the fridge open and came back with 3 cold ones. "Hope you're not getting soft on us," he said, handing me a beer. Andrea raised hers. "To justice." "To Dad," I added. And then, real quiet, under my breath so no one else heard, "To finally blooming." What do you think? Did Mel do the right thing letting Holden off with just 15 years? Drop your answer in the comments. We want to hear your take. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more real stories like this one.
YouTube picked this for you. Tap it. Let's see if they guessed right.